Right now, 39,000 commercial flights are in the air above your head, 7 million people in metal tubes, 30,000 feet up, trusting that a human being is steering. But here's what's crazy. On most of those flights, no one is actually flying the plane. Not a pilot, not a co-pilot, an algorithm. And the airlines? They've known this for years. They just haven't told you. 0 major US carriers have been honest about how little their pilots actually touch the controls anymore. And now the question isn't whether AI will replace pilots. It's whether you'll even notice when it already has. Stay with me until the end of this video, because what I found goes way deeper than autopilot. We're talking about a secret regulatory war, a $226,000 job that might not exist by the time your kids grow up, and one company that already flew a cargo plane from gate to gate, with nobody on board. To understand how massive this shift is, you have to look at the numbers. The global air cargo market alone, just cargo, is a $335 billion industry. 16 million metric tons of freight flew through the air in 2023. That's one cargo plane lifting off somewhere on Earth every few seconds around the clock. The U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics says the median salary for an American airline pilot hit $226,600 in May 2024. Captain salaries have risen 46% since 2020 alone. Meanwhile, United Airlines went on record saying the industry needs 10,000 new pilots per year, but only 6,000 qualified candidates exist to fill those seats. Put it all together, and you've got an industry burning billions on pilots it can't even find, while simultaneously pouring money into machines designed to make those pilots unnecessary. That contradiction is not an accident. That is a plan. The numbers get even weirder when you look at what's happening behind closed doors. In 2017, quietly, with almost no press coverage, Airbus and Dassault walked into the European Union Aviation Safety Agency and pitched something that should have been front-page news. They wanted to cut commercial cockpit crews in half. One pilot, flying you and 300 other people across an ocean, alone. EASA didn't laugh them out of the room. They opened a formal investigation. By 2019, there were official regulatory proposals on the table. By 2023, Airbus and FedEx were already discussing a specific jet, the A321 freighter, that would enter service with single-pilot approval by 2027. Airbus CEO Guillaume Faury publicly said the company was aligning its timeline around this concept. I wanted to understand, what is actually stopping this? And what I found wasn't what I expected. Let's go back to the 1950s. A commercial cockpit back then had 5 people in it. A captain, a first officer, a flight engineer, a navigator, and in some cases, a radio operator. Flying was so complex, so instrument-heavy, that no 2 people could manage it alone. Then technology started eating those seats one by one. Navigation computers replaced navigators. Autopilot ate into the co-pilot's role. By the 1980s, the flight engineer's seat was gone, absorbed into automated systems. The industry quietly shrank the cockpit crew from 5 to 2 over about 30 years, and almost nobody noticed because it happened gradually. Regulation by regulation, technology upgrade by upgrade. Here's what that history tells us. It's already happened before. The airlines and manufacturers have been running the same playbook for 70 years. Every time there's a pilot seat to eliminate, they wait for the technology to catch up, they lobby the regulators, and eventually, the seat disappears. Look at it this way to understand the math. The average airline pilot costs a carrier roughly $200,000 a year in salary, training, hotel stays, per diem, and benefits. On a long-haul flight with 2 pilots, you're looking at around $400,000 per crew pair per year. An AI system running 24 hours a day costs fractions of that. The incentive isn't subtle, it's enormous. And in 2021, a company out of California called X-Wing walked into an airport hangar and did something that proved it wasn't a fantasy anymore. They put a Cessna Grand Caravan on the runway, a real commercial cargo aircraft, and let it fly itself. Taxi out of the gate, take off, fly the route, land, taxi back, gate to gate. No one on board. All air traffic control communications handled from the ground. The aviation industry took note and started making moves. X-Wing bet everything on this technology. Their Superpilot system, that's the actual name, uses advanced AI and machine learning to handle every phase of flight. Taxi, takeoff, cruise, landing. Not assistance, not suggestions, full control. By 2023, they had logged 500 autonomous hours across 250 flights and submitted a project-specific certification plan to the FAA, becoming the first standard category large unmanned aerial system to receive official FAA project designation. That is not a startup dream. That is a government-recognized path to replacing pilots in commercial operations. And FedEx already tested similar technology with a company called Reliable Robotics back in 2020. UPS is now one of X-Wing's cargo partners. These aren't fringe players. These are the backbone of American logistics. That single gate-to-gate autonomous flight in 2021 changed everything about what was possible because it proved the technology wasn't theoretical. It was real. It was certified airspace compatible. And it worked. So why is this actually happening right now? Here's the thing. It's not just one reason. It's everything colliding at once. The pilot shortage. The global aviation industry faces a shortfall that could reach 674,000 pilots by 2043. Airlines are already bleeding. Smaller regional carriers are canceling routes not because of demand, but because they literally cannot staff the cockpits. That shortage is the single biggest commercial argument for automation, and every airline CEO knows it. The economics are brutal. AI-powered route planning already cuts fuel costs by 5% on long-haul flights. Predictive maintenance systems reduce aircraft downtime by up to 20%. Boeing's own airplane health management system alerts airlines to component failures before they happen, saving millions per incident. When you start adding up every dollar AI saves versus every dollar a pilot costs, the math stops being a debate and becomes a business decision. The regulatory pressure is real, but complicated. EASA pushed its single pilot approval timeline to 2029, then in June 2025, paused the research entirely, saying current technology cannot yet match the safety standards of two-pilot operations. But here's what most people miss. The pause is not a rejection. The rulemaking task force is still active. EASA explicitly left the door open. They said new technologies must first prove safety benefits in two-pilot operations. Once they do, the single-pilot era begins. The unions are fighting hard, but losing ground. Organizations like ALPA and the European Cockpit Association are lobbying furiously, running campaigns titled "Safety Starts with Two." The ECA president put it plainly: 4 eyes, 2 brains, 1 system that works. But the unions blocked single-pilot operations in the 1990s too, and autopilot still came. Flight engineers still disappeared. The outcome of those battles is history. 2025 marked when everything came to a head at once. A global pilot shortage worsening every quarter, autonomous cargo systems in active certification, regulatory agencies formally studying crew reduction, and airlines publicly silent while privately lobbying for it behind the manufacturers. And Airbus basically bet their next decade of freight business on this concept. Their Up Next division built something called Dragonfly, an autonomous emergency system tested on real aircraft. During simulations, it detected crew incapacitation, declared an emergency with air traffic control on its own, generated a full diversion plan, flew the approach, landed the aircraft, and taxied it off the runway. Automatically, without a single human input. Then there's the A321 freighter plan with FedEx, a narrow-body cargo jet redesigned from the ground up for single-pilot approval. The original pitch had it entering service by 2027. Regulators slowed it down, but Airbus has not canceled it. Meanwhile, X-Wing scaled from a startup to operating 34 cargo routes across the United States, millions of pounds of freight, 10,000 flights across 14 states, all while collecting the operational data they need to get FAA approval for fully uncrewed flights. The result of this arms race? Autonomous aviation went from a concept to an active certification process with government backing in under 5 years. Not 50, 5. So when you board your next flight and see that cockpit door close, what's actually happening is this. The pilots in those seats spend roughly 3 minutes of a 4-hour flight with their hands on the controls, takeoff and landing. That's it. The rest is the machine. But here's the power structure nobody talks about. When airlines nearly collapsed during COVID, governments spent over $200 billion bailing them out worldwide. Pilots were furloughed by the tens of thousands. The planes, the actual physical aircraft, were owned by leasing companies. Financial entities sitting in Dublin and Hong Kong who held the real assets collected the payments, and had the legal right to repossess the jets when carriers couldn't pay. The airline you think you're flying? In a lot of ways, it's a branded staffing agency with a logo on a plane it doesn't own, operated increasingly by systems it didn't build, flying routes optimized by algorithms it barely understands. But here's what's easy to miss in all of this. A 2025 survey found that 66.5% of passengers said they would fly on a fully autonomous aircraft, as long as someone they trusted was also on board. That number was near zero just a few years ago. Public trust is shifting faster than the regulations can keep up. The cargo operations are the proving ground. That's always how aviation works. Prove the technology on freight first. Lower stakes, no passengers. Then expand. Cargo drones supervised by remote pilots could gain full certification by 2026. Single-pilot passenger airline operations on limited routes are projected to begin after 2030. Fully autonomous passenger flights become realistic sometime in the late 2030s. X-Wing's tagline says it plainly: the future of aviation, closer than you think. The same pattern that erased the navigator seat, the flight engineer seat, and the radio operator seat is coming for the co-pilot seat next. Not because the airlines hate pilots, because the math is overwhelming, the technology works, and the moment regulators open the door, it will move fast. The end of real aviation as we know it isn't coming. It's already in progress. The question is just how long it takes you to notice.